Hello there, fellow humans. I too am human. I'm Jerome. This is my game development studio, Sungrand, and I make games for a living. You can check out my games if you'd like, or don't. It's a free country. Do what you want. Today I'm going to be ranking consoles based on their fake gimmicks. These are consoles where the marketing really just lied and then they made up a bunch of crap, kind of like the kid on the playground who said that they have a girlfriend in Canada. So I'm going to be ranking these based on how good they were, how convincing they were. So there's a cool factor involved, but also genuinely, did they do a good job of tricking people with their lies and their gimmicks? So let's go ahead and pick our first one here. Let's go ahead and start with the Atari 2600 because this is a classic here. This was, basically the first major home console, and really what happened with the 2600 was they said that they would bring arcade experiences home. They said they would bring Pac-Man and Pong and all of that. With Pong, it's not so difficult, but when you started bringing things like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, I think people started to realize that maybe they got ripped off a little bit. I wasn't alive in the 70s, so I don't know the genuine reaction people had. I only hear from what people say after the fact. And I grew up with a 2600 as well, and I knew that the games just weren't right. But it fooled a lot of people. So I'm gonna put this in nice one. You got me, because people thought they were getting an arcade experience with that. Okay. Next on the list, I don't know. I'm not meaning to go in chronological order here, but that's kind of what it feels like I'm doing for some reason. So we have the Sega Genesis / the Mega Drive. And this one was all about blast processing. I don't really know how much of that is truth because we have some information coming to light these days that says, it allows, the Genesis to access images in memory while something's being displayed on the screen. Who cares, man? Shut up. Who cares? It doesn't mean anything to anyone, really. Blast processing, I remember as a kid, people were confused by it. We saw it on TV. And I remember at the time we were quite cynical about it. But we all loved Sonic, except for one guy I knew. We probably have the Philips CDI next. And the trick with the Philips CDI was they wanted to convince people that they had Nintendo games. They had Mario and The Legend of Zelda. And I think when people saw the games, they were not convinced. I'm gonna go ahead and put that into garbage tier. I don't think anyone was convinced by it. It was pretty weak. That was a weak gimmick, and I don't think you should be dishonest because those were not Mario or Zelda games. Now, oh no, I said I'm doing this chronologically. I didn't even pay attention to the Jaguar. It's right there. The Jaguar came out early 90s. And the Jaguar, this is confusing, right? The gimmick was... The Atari Jaguar is 64 bits. And that's tough. It has two 32-bit processors, but does that make it a 64-bit? Sound off in the comments below if you have something to add to that, whether you feel that this actually is a 64-bit console, if it is receiving 64-bit instructions. Is it displaying 64-bit images? This is tough. Oh, this is tough. I am not exactly sure where to put this guy. I'm going to put it in Almost Tricked Me because it's a cool gimmick. The commercial was catchy. The commercial was... it was kind of cheesy. I remember even at the time, the commercial was cheesy. I'm going to put it in Almost Tricked Me because I think there were people that were pretty dubious about that, right? What do we have here? Okay. We have the Gamescom. The Gamescom... The lie here, the big lie of the Gamescom was that it had games and that it was a game console. Sorry, you're not. Okay, I don't actually know when the Rzone launched. It feels like in early 2000s, like a 2000 The gimmick of the Gamescom was that it was this virtual reality, actually played games, when in reality it wasn't actually a game console. It was the exact same thing as those tacky Tiger Electronic LCD games where the screen was just hard-coded and the graphics were basically a calculator. It's basically a calculator. And the Rzone, they're lying, their gimmick. No one was convinced. No one wanted it. It's not playable. I'm going to put that in D tier. There we go. We have next the PlayStation 2 with the Emotion Engine. I distinctly remember seeing the back of the box of Final Fantasy X. It touted the Emotion Engine. It acted like it was this big fancy, wow, the characters' facial expressions are so detailed and expressive. And I think many people were convinced by the Emotion Engine, which is just marketing. Again, it's just a fake gimmick. It's a marketing thing. But it sounds really cool. It's catchy. It's good marketing. And I think many people were tricked by it. It's not real. The emotions are not real. They're just something that we make up to justify visual graphics. That's what I'm talking about. And the Amico has to go last, of course. And the Xbox Kinect, I'm specifically talking about the Kinect, and that you would... I'm really taking into account the marketing of Milo. This sort of, ooh, you can be part of the game. You are now in the game, and the Kinect can interact with you as its AI.
Hi, Milo. How you doing?
I think it looked pretty cool. The trailer was convincing. I wouldn't say it's as convincing as say like blast processing, because it seemed like a stretch. Oh, I'm gonna put that in weak sauce. I'm putting that in weak sauce. And lastly, the Intellivision Amico and the fake gimmick. The lie here is Tommy Tallarico told us this was going to be an actual game console, and it is not. There's like 3 out there in the world, and they're only for YouTubers who have been speaking very highly of the Amico, and it's also for dads that are quite emotionally and psychologically abusive to their sons on their YouTube channel, so that they can protect the Amico, and they don't really care about their kids' developmental processes or feelings. And it's not a real console. It never came out. It never will come out. So calling it a game console is a gimmick. You can download a phone app if you want. Go ahead and give that a try. So here we go. That's going in D tier. Okay, do you agree with the list? Or do you disagree? Do you love the Intellivision Amico? Do you think that the Philips CDI should have been in S tier for a nice one you got me? Anyway, that's all I've got time for today. I'd like to give a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, both in the past and currently. Thanks to you guys, I've been able to keep the lights on in my studio and keep doing the work that I enjoy doing and sharing games with all of you. So I try to put some of your contributions towards acquiring hardware so I can create homebrew games for you guys. I'm about to order some hardware for the Game Gear, so I have a number of homebrew titles coming out soon, and of course I distribute the ROMs for free. But I only develop homebrew for hardware that I have, it's not interesting developing games for emulators, so I like to develop my games on hardware so I can start making Game Gear games for all of you. So those who have a Game Gear, if you have a flash card, which are not that hard to get actually, they're quite cheap, you'll be able to play Game Gear games that I make. But also I'll be making homebrew games that are multi-platform, so if I make a game for the Game Gear, I'll make it for other consoles as well. So thanks very much for all of your support. I really appreciate that. I'll be posting some exclusive content on Patreon very soon. People will be able to enjoy exclusive early builds of my upcoming games and try them while they're early on in development. So please take care. I'll be sharing more homebrew projects soon. I'm very excited about that. Take care of yourselves, everyone.